Hey, this is Geek-Dom. I'm Don. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, customer, friend, geek, welcome back. In this video, it is going to be a continuation in the collaboration between Geek-Dom and Jenkins Locks in hosting your free web server in the Google Cloud on a virtual server. In the first video, which I'll pop a link up on the screen or in the description, wherever, went through basically getting set up in Google Cloud with a free Gmail account, and then actually deploying that virtual server that's going to be, in an episode or two, our web server. So this is going to be episode 2b, to be or not to be. Hopefully it will be. This is going to be the Google Cloud SDK install. And that's going to be how we connect from your local machine out to that virtual web server. And it's 2B because over on Jenkins Locks we did 2A, which is the Windows version of installing the SDK command line interface. Personal preference. Been in IT since I was 13, which is a couple decades more than what I care to admit. For me, and this is going to be on Debian, the latest version, Debian Buster, Debian 10. It's hard to keep up with different flavors. For me, managing the Google Cloud, it's just easier on Debian. The install's a lot easier. It's a lot less of a pain in the butt to connect. Eventually, on the Windows side, you can get it smooth. The install's kind of a pain in the butt sometimes, just because there's so many variables. With more variables, I think, with Windows. And for me personally, whether it's my Geek-Dom website for my personal use, it's this for demonstrations, or it's for Jenkins Locks for my business site, I set up as a separate local VM using Oracle VirtualBox. And I set up an instance for each website I'm doing. And I'll kind of explain why a little bit more in a bit. But hey, let's jump into it. So the first thing we're going to do is open up a web browser, and we're going to Google Google Cloud Debian. Well, let's go SDK. Might put too many spaces in there. Let's see if this is going to be the magic one. Okay, I will put a link to this site in the description. Some really just riveting reading over here if you got time. I haven't had time yet, so maybe you can tell me how it turns out. But we're going to scroll down here to installation instructions, and you can see your different operating systems here, even for Mac OS and Windows. But we're going to be doing this on Debian. So with that, the information down here changes. And this is a fresh installation of Debian. It's been updated, all the good bells and whistles. So the first thing we're going to do is update the package source. So I'm going to copy that, open a terminal, paste that in. And these initial steps are just kind of setting up the handshake between our local VM and that the VM out in the cloud. So now we're going to switch over, make sure the transport is in. Now see, here's one of the things, after I work in Windows for a little bit and I switch back over to Debian, most of my Debian installs are the light versions, meaning I don't have a desktop. So it already kind of throws me when I'm on Debian in a desktop, especially after Windows. I'm used to coming down here, and I'll end up opening like 8, 9, 10 different terminal sessions. So I'll try to keep that at a minimum. Okay, yes. One thing I want to stop and point out here, with this being a virtual machine that I'm on right now, on my local environment, if I start running out of disk space, it's real easy for me in the back end, go increase the disk, add some more storage, add more RAM, whatever. If you're doing this from a physical machine, you might want to keep an eye on this. For example, over on the Windows video, I kept track of this, and the installer said it's only going to need like 84, 89 megabytes. Well, by the time it was finished going through everything, it took up like 1.5 gigs. So if you're on a physical machine, it's not always easy to add more physical drive space. So one of the things you want to keep track of. I mean, right now we're at, a couple hundred kilobytes. No bad. Nothing bad. Okay. Now, because we're on a stable release, current release of Debian, we don't have to worry about these. Next, we're going to add, see, and there I go again. Alright, so I'm going to close this out because I don't want to type my password again. We're going to do the public key. It's just part of creating that secure connection between our machine and the one out in the cloud. This is one of the things I find with the latest Debian. A lot of commands that used to be default installs are no longer there. And like I said, this is a clean install, so we're going to have to install that real quick. Git install curl. So again, we're adding more space, taking up more space on the drive. Because I think when in VirtualBox, and I'm sure VMware also, when you do a Linux install, I think they always recommend like 8 or 10 gig for the hard drive. I always do a dynamic 20, 30 gig. Just personal preference because I'm lazy and I don't want to keep going back and changing things. Again, we're on a stable release, so we don't have to do this. And now we're going to install the actual Cloud SDK. I told you I'm bad about doing this. Okay. That did not go. Alright, I had a brain fart there. So when we got the error about curl, yes, I went and installed curl, but then I did not go back and add the key. So my mistake. Now we're good. Now let's install it. Had a Scooby moment there. Huh? Okay, so again, keeping track. Gonna need, say, 93 meg for archives, 500 meg for the installation itself. So again, if you're short on drive space, just things to keep track of. Now this is much better. So this does take about 3-4 minutes, 5 minutes. So I'm going to pause it here, take a lemonade break, and once it's done, I'll restart. Alright, it's been about 3 minutes, so this should be just about done. On the Windows side, installing the equivalent of this, it takes about 10 or 15 minutes. Oh, see, there we go. Again, one of the reasons I love Linux, it works faster. Okay. So now, after I've corrected my Ubu, don't open another terminal. Oh, one thing I want to show you. So we just did this. Don't need to run the echo. We're not running this in Docker. There are a lot of additional packages, and that's one of the reasons why the Linux install runs faster than Windows. Windows, it pretty much installs everything. Here, if you want to add, if you're good with code, I'm personally not. Python, Java, you know, a lot of options here. You can, it's piecemeal. You can put what you need in and leave out what you don't. So, example of how to install it. So now don't open another terminal. We're gonna start a GoFundMe for Don for typing and spelling lessons. Okay, so what this is gonna do, it's now gonna link our local cloud SDK tools to our Google Cloud. And what it'll do is it'll launch a web page here. And it's going to ask us to log in. So yes, we would like to. And it's funny because it'll flip over to the web page real fast. For whatever reason, if it doesn't work, you can always copy this and do it. And when I say it's funny, is I'll show you here in a minute. What is it? Geek. And this is all free. So when you hit next and don't save, it'll sit here and it'll show you what it's granting access to. Now, if you remember when we hit the G-Cloud init, it immediately popped up. Well, within seconds, popped up that web page. When you click this, it's going to sit here and load a web page. But if you go back to the original terminal, it's already here. It's just going to load this page and just sit there. So you have to go back in the terminal, and now you're going to select what project you want to do. So that's 2 for us. Yep. So this is called the setting the compute region. It's kind of like time zone, but it's for resources. I've kind of Googled what the letter number combinations are. But in a nutshell, and it's not something we care about because we're not running a multi-billion-dollar corporation website. You know, a 1B might be if you're more memory resource intensive. A 1D might be if you're more network bandwidth intensive. We're setting up, you know, just a normal small town business website, personal blog, whatever. I think in the other video I went with 5, so let's go with that. Okay, so now it's telling us we can look at the command here. Okay, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. So since we logged in when we linked, we're now logged into the the Google Cloud here. So we're going to go to console. Yay for not having to type passwords multiple times. I want to say that's me being efficient, but I'm just lazy. So I appreciate the lazy aspects. So we're going to go to the menu here, the navigation menu. And we're going to go down to Compute Engine. And then VM Instances. And what we're going to see is that VM, that's the base, which is going to eventually be our web server that we did in the first video. So there it is, WordPress. The zone. This is the internal IP for the Google network. We have our external IP, which when you do this, it's a free static IP. I mean, that's awesome. And here's how we can connect into it. I've tinkered around with all these. The one I personally prefer, and that's the one we're doing now, is a View Cloud command. If you want to use PuTTY and you got to set up some your keys and a bunch of, it's kind of a pain in the initial setup. But we're going to do View the Google Cloud command. Now my instinct here on these things is always to click in here and go Control A, but if you notice, it just randomly highlights a bunch of junk. So you have to, I normally get the G and just pull down and get it all. For whatever reason, sometimes right-clicking and copying is what I need to do to paste it in the terminal. Sometimes it's Control C. It just seems to be random. But I don't know if... Yep. Oh, you bastard. So you have this option here that says Run in Cloud Shell, which I guess my windows aren't big enough. All it does is opens up a little terminal down here. I guess it's great for just doing something quick. I haven't had much use for it. So let's see if Control C works. Okay. What are you doing to me? There we go. So as you can see, the compute SSH, all that, WordPress. So it's telling us the geographical area we're going, the instance, the VM we're going to, and the project it's an umbrella on. So it's going to go out and check, and it's going to throw up these warnings because first time this machine has connected through the cloud, so we don't have all those handshakes and security features set up yet, but we're going to take care of that right now. Do not skimp on your passwords. You got to remember this is now out in the wild of the internet, so come up with a good one. I say 12 to 16 characters minimum, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special characters. Okay, now here is where sometimes I get a little bit of a hiccup on Debian and not on Windows. It's going to sit here and tell me a bunch of times that that's not the right. Alright, so Geek, that's this machine, and that's our WordPress. So we can kind of validate we're connected out there. If I get the right command here. So 10.150.02, if we come back here, 10.51.2, so we are connected to this machine. Now, if it's your first time connecting out to that instance, even if you just deployed that VM 5 minutes ago, you got to do your admin stuff. Because the reason is when you deploy it from those packages, whether it's Debian, whether it's Windows, they don't update those real time. So if a patch comes out, they have to, it has to be worth their while to make a new updated image, and it's just good practice. All right, so we're good. So that's where this episode's going to end. So first episode, we got into Google Cloud, we deployed a VM. This video and its counterpart in Windows over on Jenkins Locks is getting into the operating system of that VM, and that's, you know, the steps we're going through. The next is going to be installing the database server for the website. That'll be Nginx. I'm not a big Apache fan, Apache fan anymore. Newer technology. I mean, don't get me wrong, Apache's been around forever. It's widely deployed, but Nginx is just a more efficient engine database in my opinion. So installing Nginx, setting up a database, installing WordPress, and then it's it's probably going to be a couple more videos. Because once you get WordPress installed and you got your website, then you got to, set the website up the way you want it. But then you want the world to reach it, so then you got to point your registrar, in my case, Geek-Dom.com or JenkinsLocks.com, point it to that VM so the world knows how to get it. So that's going to be it for this one. If you're curious, if you prefer the Windows, please, I have links. Go over to Jenkins Locks and see the Windows version of the SDK install. Appreciate you guys hanging with me on this, and all my typos and mistakes and occasional swear words. Please, in the comments below, tell me what you like, what you don't like, what questions you have, any problems you ran into in your own path in doing this. And trying to do these videos where we're going to have one out each Monday. Today I had to do 2. Next week I might have to do 2 on Monday too. That's fine. I just want to make sure it's good quality content. Again, if you haven't already done it, please smash the like and subscribe buttons. Go over to Jenkins Locks channel. Do the same thing there. And I will catch you guys next time. Again, truly appreciate you guys hanging in there with me. So, take care and see you next week.